Hello, this is Tracy from DI Debunk, and today I wanted to share about how alters in DID systems, or at least in my own personal experience, may not be formed just because of childhood trauma. In my case, I was created to learn a new language. It was not like a much later in life thing for me. I learned Mandarin Chinese when I was bodily 6 years old, and at the time my body was unable to take over this task effectively, and it was distressing to learn a new language, and even more so when the body was unable to speak properly with the two languages that it was already supposed to be fluent in. So I was created to become good at the third language. It's true that for people with DID, we already need to have repetitive, extensive trauma in childhood before the age of 6. In the formative years of childhood, something that people usually call as the golden period of life development. And I'm not saying that it is not true, because I heard that some other alters in my system have experienced really what feels to them and the body as really extreme past childhood trauma, emotional tidbits happening, and loss of stress that was not properly regulated or supported for in a more emotional, psychological level. So I'm not saying that those do not exist, and I do have that prerequisites in mind, but at the time I think in my head that with people with DID, we probably, it's not just the trauma that was hard to handle. And in my case, there's also a lot of other seemingly small things that, because the container was already so full, that it was just unable to use one container to fill in everything, and so we had to use many more containers divided to handle everything that is being thrown on our faces. And in my system's case, not just the childhood trauma that was hard, we had been diagnosed with autism and ADHD as a child, and being autistic, being ADHD, and growing up in a place where I was supposed to take whatever that was thrown on my face. I could not handle that. I think my brain at the time, if it weren't for DID, I would not have been able to live through that. It was just too much information. I grew up in a bicultural environment, so I was familiar with more of a Western framework and also an Eastern framework, and just being that push and pull between those two different kinds of cultures. And if it weren't for DID, it's not just the childhood trauma, like I said, it's also these other things, my brain could not really reconcile the differences. I think on an unconscious level, it decided to split them all apart. Then it will make it a lot more easier to cope, a lot more manageable in comparison to maybe if they were all in one bowl, in one soup, don't really know if I'll be able to navigate the world around me, especially because there's some of us who are a lot more sensitive. I think if it weren't for DID, I wouldn't have been able to survive for a day, because there are just so many things we have to handle, like growing up from really small age and until now. If it weren't for DID splitting away all those information, all the different struggles that we have, and somehow instead of having 10 to 15 different struggles all felt at once, you feel them all more split apart, like 2 or 3 symptom, like disorders kinds of symptoms, then it's a lot more broken down, a lot less like every day is a drag. Like the dragging things, it feels way less than if there are like 15 to 20 or 10 different disorders worth of symptoms like dragging you down every day. Earlier in the day, I watched a few documentaries about the personal life experiences of people with DID, and all is good to see them all in English. Unfortunately, I am also a speaker of 2 other languages, and I could not find much or any at all about theirs. Like those that I see mainly like people really coming out and advocating for themselves is just Westerners. No matter what their skin color is, they are still somebody from, let's say, America, somebody from the UK, or some other European country, American country, more progressive, like in terms of like individuality, kind of progressive, like individualism, then they are more open to sharing and not really seeing myself out there. And yeah, my story is unique. Everyone's stories are unique, but it makes me feel alienated. And I think that is another incentive why I'm just so wanting to share my story. And as Tracy, I just want to somehow make this disclaimer or this video about those ultras like me. I guess makes my threshold a little lower because of the autism and ADHD that is in my body. And I don't really know if there are many systems like me out there who is also having a similar thing where they don't necessarily have all bad. And it actually, for those people who have only known me, just only have met Tracy, nobody believes that I could have a bad past experiences. Like in the system, like any alter is just no way, not possible, you're lying. That's what people would say. That's probably because of how good I look. And I think this is also the magic of DID. Like it makes it so convincing because the alter genuinely has no idea about anything else, and that is all they know and that's all they stand for. And people, they buy the genuinity, the ignorance. Like you cannot feign ignorance truly. Like you could pretend to not know, but if you truly don't know, then you really don't know, right? Even if you press somebody, they really don't know, then they don't know, right? I feel like my own personal experience of how much I still don't know about my system's past, and only knowing mainly about learning Mandarin Chinese and learning some French. I am somebody who does a lot of our foreign language learning, and it somehow highlights that importance of being ignorant, because those teachers and those people who know me, they still believe I have a perfect life. Like, it's, of course everyone has struggles. I mean, like, that there's just no way I could have DID kind of way of really having no problem. And it really, I feel like I don't hear enough of that, and so I want to create an example. Thank you.